So apparently the same thing happened again. So yeah, this video also had its audio completely destroyed, but instead of being like near the end, it's the entire video. So that means I had to do a voiceover as the scene in the previous video. So now let's start off with the basics. Hello there, this is Warpath 1985 Seiki. And in today's 6th day of 12 Days of War, I shall be discussing the Transformers Studio Series 86 Cup Buzzworthy Bumblebee version figure review. The figure is very accurate to both the color palette and the character model of Cup seen in Transformers the movie and in the TV show, and also in the anime, manga, and etc. Although, yes, this figure does still have the same problems as seen in the previous use of the mold, that being the standard 86 Cup. That being the limbs might fall off or unplug on accident due to either transformation, play, etc. Still, the figure is overall improvement compared to the previous release, not the least, but general just use of mold, because they also in fact fixed most tolerances that was seen in the original figure, or just generally a lot tighter in certain areas, particularly that being the 5mm ports that connects the limbs to the body. Besides that, when it comes to the character of Cup, he's pretty interesting overall. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the G1 adjacent versions of Cup, not really future versions of Cup, which there are many of, and also characters that do follow the same character archetype of Cup. But generally, Cup's character is a old veteran Autobot who's grumpy, crickety, and generally old geezer. It's all about the classical archetype / cliche of the old geezer who always boasts about how things were better back in the day, etc. However, you also get the aspect of the character, that being his wisdom. Because of his age and his seniority, he also would tell large and boisterous stories of his past. However, you also get this aspect that would be further expanded in future versions as interpretations of Cup, particularly seen at IDW, where he would get this weird sense of PTSD from, because in the cartoon it was revealed that he was imprisoned on a world controlled by the monster alien warlord, technically. I forgot kind of like what General World does, but besides just a monster of weak type of creature, that being Chaos. He was forced to mine crystals that, well, Chaos produced. Those are called death crystals. And due to this experience, it pretty much scarred Cup for ever, essentially. He was forever scarred from those events, and was forever felt ashamed that he was pretty much left the other boss behind, until the episode we do actually meet up with Chaos, which is the episode where we heard him. He was able to get his revenge and free the boss he left behind. That character type / archetype would be further expanded upon in IDW, where he was also stuck on a world, but instead of him being imprisoned / enslaved, instead he was pretty much not necessarily brainwashed, but mainly just affected by the dangerous chemicals on that planet. Those chemicals, I can't remember, but it pretty much altered his mind and gave him brain damage, and also PTSD, etc. To the point where now he has to smoke like a cigar, which in Transformers both functions similar to real life cigars, which is what the thing is based off of, but also it's Cybertron's version of nicotine, it works more as like a alternative version that is used for Cup in the Wrecker storyline. Is supposed to pretty much mitigate and calm him and prevent him from having PTSD outbursts, which in the comic books was rather, instead of him just freaking out, it was more of him going to a full meltdown and starting killing everybody because he thought everybody was a monster. This would continue on as a character element where he would be smoking a cigar until, well, he would eventually be killed off by a visionary character who I believe she was exclusively created for IDW, during the Revolution event, which I always thought was kind of a dumb thing. Like, understood, like, okay, this is an interesting storyline, but I always thought the way they killed off Cup was kind of like lame. Like most of the transferring characters who were killed off during that storyline always thought were kind of lame. Cup will also reappear in the Energon universe. In that case, he's heavily damaged and in a comatose stasis. Besides that, the figure of Cup comes with 2 accessories. That being his pistol and his Energon goodie kit, technically. Technically, it's a rations kit that's supposed to be shaped as a jerry can for his vehicle mode. But generally, that is what he has. A blaster that is a weird, I believe, amalgamation of both his G1 blaster that was clearly the G1 figure, but also the blaster he was shown in the movie / cartoon to primarily use most of the time. And obviously the goodie kit is, the rations kit is based off of the movie. Now for the articulation of the figure, it's actually pretty good overall. Although yes, certain articulation points are missing, that being wrist swivels, overall you still have the same articulation seen in other Studio Series 86 figures. That being a ball joint, a panel that can be untransformed, and so you can move further down, but not further up. He has, as you can see right here, a loose like shoulder joint, so you can sort of peg that connects the shoulder to the rest of the body, but generally has a shoulder hinge, a bicep cut, a over 90-degree bend at the elbow, and no wrist swivel as mentioned before. Technically it's arcing back, but once again that's due to untransforming the figure. It has a waist swivel, very good articulation in the hips, has a thigh cut, a very good knee bend, and ankle articulation, and the toe can be moved technically or articulated because it's transformation. Now for comparison, I'll mainly just be having Swoop be the representation of the rest of the Dinobots, because obviously the Dinobots are so big and there's so many that can't be fit all in the frame. Now when it comes to transformation, however, Cup is actually very easy. Even though yes, the figure is so finicky, even with those fixes seen in this version of the 86 Bold, where they were able to fix most of those problems seen in the original figure, primarily the tolerances with the connections and the 5 more ports to the rest of the body from the limbs. Particularly that with the arms, which are still relatively easy to disconnect and to transform into and out of the truck mode, or to the pickup truck mode. But when it comes to legs, they're a lot easier to transform and generally just hang in there a lot better in comparison to the previous version of the mold. Like you see right here, the leg articulation is very simple. is actually very much panel heavy overall. And if I recall correctly, I believe this transformation is shared from the Tyrant's Return figure, relatively speaking. Particularly just has some shared engineering as transformation works, similar to that of the 86 Constructicons, where most of them would share some elements or transformation schemes from the Combined Wars / the Unite Warriors figures. However, with Cup, I believe it's mainly with the legs, the arms, and the, not the cab, but the, you know what, I think, yeah, it is simply still a cab when it comes to a pickup truck. But overall, these are somewhat still relatively unique to this figure, particularly due to the fact that the figure has that removable limb gimmick, which I forgot to mention obviously replicates the scene for the movie where he loses his limbs to a giant squid monster. Alright, so that is about it for the transformation. I'm almost done, just gotta squeeze it together. Plug on the goodie kit / the rations and the blaster. And yeah, you're pretty much done with the figure. As you see me just drop the jerry can again. Yeah, there he is in pickup truck mode. Looks very good in these new colors. Definitely a significant improvement compared to the previous version seen in the SS86 line. And overall, that's pretty much for this review. When it comes to availability, etc., this version of Cup is actually pretty easy to find on the aftermarket overall, especially for pretty cheap, because not that many people are really interested in getting this version of Cup. They're rather more interested in getting the Takara version or the standard Tyrant's Return version of Cup. Mainly just because most people consider that version to be superior, which to each their own, I guess. Even though my personal opinion, I do like this figure a little bit more, even though yes, its head sculpt still is kind of wonky. But overall, these new colors do help out a lot with this figure. But yeah, that's all for day 6 of 12 Days of War. Like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I shall see you for day 7.